It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. If only you could be everywhere at once. Tech Agriculture helps farmers manage uncertainty and stress by remotely monitoring their field crops and connecting them with timely agronomic advice. Traditional crop scouting demands precious time or experienced scouts who are in short supply. Today's growers and agronomists increasingly make use of aerial drones and satellite imagery for a view of the big picture in a field. Tech Ag bridges the gap by using electric dirt bikes to travel between rows or along sprayer tracks to collect high-resolution imagery that can be used to head off production risks before they develop into costly production challenges. Integrations with a growing list of farm management software partners allow growers and trusted advisors to view imagery on their preferred platform. For more information, visit their website at tech.ag. That's www.tecc.ag. Get peace of mind with remote, timely field and crop scouting imagery wherever you are, whenever you want. Tech Agriculture. Hi, welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. I am so excited today to talk to a man with deep convictions about politics and policy. He's appeared on almost every news network, has a coast-to-coast radio show, and has over 1 million podcast downloads. I would like to welcome the host of Cut the Crap, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. Welcome, Jovan, and how are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm excited about this. This is, I finally get to talk passion stuff when we're talking farming and ag and whatever the case may be. I love it. Call me Tom Sawyer. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. So can you tell me a bit about your background? You were raised on a farm, right?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I grew up in Texas, and I was born in Arkansas, grew up in Texas. My father was a military man. When he got out of the military, he literally started running ranches, and it was for LBJ's group of ranches. He ended up on the Singing Hills Ranch for Roy Akers. And so I always grew up around cattle and farming and raising. My family in Arkansas, my family in Northern California, huge Republican family, largest cattle operation, one of the largest cattle operations in Northern California. And as my very first gig that I ever went out entrepreneurial on my own as a child, even before I did stuff, I used to raise rabbits, but even before that, I basically planted cucumbers, and I would sprout the plants, get them going, and I would go door to door selling my cucumber plants for 50 cents a piece. And so it's in my blood, right? I don't have a green thumb. I have green blood.
That is so awesome. That's cool. And
then,
you're the host. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right. Not a problem. And so don't let it confuse you. I know if people actually see me out there on TV or whatever the case may be, I'm kind of a big guy. I kid because I'm a nerd hiding out in a biker's body. And so even though most people know me from the political realm these days because of what's going on in the United States of America, I'm truly kind of a nerd. I'm a tech guy, and that's the conundrum, right? You look at me and I talk, and I'm a nerd, but I'm hiding out in a biker's body, right? So it kind of is a conflict for people when they see me. But I came in and started innovating when mobile phones were just about to take off. There weren't any cameras and phones or anything like that. But some of the functions where you would never know it was me that innovated it. But remember when we all used to get AOL disk and they were in the mail all over the place. And then all of a sudden there's no disk anymore and everything just auto updates on your computer or phone. Well, that's me. I created that process. Or shopping carts, things simple as shopping carts where you put stuff in and it remembers who you are and you don't have to keep on entering in your credit card information, or it can remember and give you promotions and redeem them on the web. Those are all mine. When you go to a toll booth and you no longer throw change, but it reads the tag in your car and just dings it back to your credit card and continues to remember who you are. That's me. When you go to an airport, you no longer have a boarding pass, and now you just use your phone and put it down, or you use your phone even to scan a code or any code and make it read back. That's me. That's some of my innovations that are installed as far as the software suite go on about 15 billion mobile devices around the world. So I sit in an interesting position being part of the technology landscape, and more importantly, part of a technology landscape, which is a highly liberal business, unfortunately, and I am a conservative. Many times I'm the lone conservative in the room. As part of those different careers and done, I was the original Fox News correspondent. I did my first movie when I was 15. So I've been in radio and television for a long time. And now I retired from television, actually, July 4th weekend, the year 2000. And that was after doing my normal show on Fox, and then went from Fox to CBS to ABC to NBC. Most markets I followed politically incorrect. You would not kind of recognize me because now, if you look at me, I have considerably less hair, but that was kind of my thing. And I went off the air and just kept on doing my technology. And when all this presidential election stuff started coming around, I decided it's time to get back out there and start sharing the message about how we just keep our country healthy, how we stay red, white, and blue, and how we must remember we've been here before, we've been through this before. And if we forget our history, it's a cliche, but it's true, we're doomed to repeat it. And we can tackle any part of this. And a very important part of tackling this is we've got to get control of our food supply. And we have to go back to the great things most of our grandparents or parents taught us that we have ignored. And that's just how to grow food and how to can food and how to take care of ourselves in a world where now many of our kids, unfortunately, the school system is telling them they can be a boy one day, a girl the next day. And if they identify as a squirrel who's actually a puppet that looks like a cow that's really a rock, it's totally fine. I don't go down for that.
Well, obviously, right? Well, that's a pretty diverse background.
It is. I'm, it's not really a jack of all trades. It's just using my mind. My mind's for lease. And that's how I do it. But I'm a tinkerer and I can't help it. Even like on my own family ranch, I tend to tinker with things. Like I spent some time trying to cross Longhorn with Buffalo because I wanted a Longolo. I wanted big Buffalo size, right? But I wanted Longhorn horns and a Longhorn coat. I didn't succeed at that one, only because I didn't get to tinker with it long enough. I'm the guy that I tinker with my chicken scratch. And finally, I get chicken scratch so good, my chickens are thriving, but the egg shells are so damn hard, you can almost not crack them, right? And you're getting multiple yolks. So I'm always a tinker at heart. I just tinker in a lot of places. And it's interesting. I was literally minutes before that. So I just finished up a call with Attorney General, getting stuff for the Attorney General in Arizona in one project, took a break, went outside, was getting my heirloom plants and beds done and mixing up my good organic slot, herbal tea, your compost tea, getting it done, putting in my wonderful fish guts, mixing it up. So I come back in here and do this. So here we're talking. Thank God we're talking, but you just can't smell. I smell like dead fish at the moment.
Oh, that's good. That's great. And you are the host of Cut the Crap radio and podcast show. So tell me about that. What does CRAP stand for and why do you do the show?
Well, crap, I started to think, how can, you got to look, marketing is marketing is marketing. If you don't market, we got fooled in society. People said, build a better mousetrap. People beat a path to your door. It's horse hockey. Because the bottom line is if they don't know where your door is, how do they know about your product? Marketing's everything. Mm-hmm. And we're fooled by if you just do a great product, people are going to show up. No, you have to tell them about it. So when I decided to do radio and a podcast, I needed for people to instantly understand what I was talking about. So we'll step back for a moment. If you look at the political landscape at the moment, and what happened in the 2020 election debacle. When you think about what's going on with our kids, with our politics, with mandates, with the ridiculous stuff going on, you just want to scream at these politicians to cut the crap, right? You just want to grab them by the lapel and tell them to cut the crap. And so I decided that was the best saying that people could resonate with, that we all want to do, because we just want to have everybody cut the crap, leave us alone, get our country great all over again, get it back on its feet and thriving. It just so happens that I use CRAP as an acronym, which stands for culture, race, and American politics. Or it could be culture, race, academia, and politics, depending upon what I'm talking about for the day. So what I try to do, it's a radio program and it's a video broadcast and it's a podcast, is I'm talking to people in the markets I'm on with FM radio, which is Real Talk 93.3, talking to them on their morning commute in and then on their commute home from work 7 days a week. And then it's the podcast. We've done some really interesting things. There's 1 million podcasts in the United States of America. I think we just broke like 115, ranked 115 out of 1 million. And then globally, we're now ranked at the top 1.5% of all podcasts in the world, because it has to be relevant. And so what I do is literally, I'm just like you. I've had an interesting career, but I am no different. We are all fed up with this. And I just want to talk about the crap that goes on, the crap politicians do to us, the crap that has our kids dyeing their hair pink, identifying with, aphids. And I just want to tell them to stop. And so I try to expose it, talk about it, get people to relate, and then give them a honorable, right, patriotic solution of how we solve it, which most of it comes down to how we cast our ballot and making sure our elections have incredible election integrity. That's what cut the crap is. And I know everybody can relate, because you've either had a child, a neighbor, an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a father, a mother, you name it, next door neighbor, that you just want to grab by the lapels when you're finally fed up and say, just cut the crap. And that's what
Absolutely. That is awesome. And yes, I've definitely felt that way before. And obviously, yes, I'm a listener of yours. And on March 9th, your show resonated with me on so many levels. The title was completely crazy, and I'll read the title. It was "Eat My Meat or Eat Me, Would You? Alarming Food Supply Corralling Trends." So anything about food supply gets my interest, but with a crazy title like that, I was definitely all ears. And in the episode, you talked about clean meat. Can you tell me about what clean meat is, first of all?
I want everybody to understand the transition I went through in my life. And so I think it kind of made me uniquely qualified to talk about this. And yes, I'm a marketer. And when somebody tells you to eat me, it's going to make you pay attention, right? But I had a reason for doing that. Now, so in my telemetry, I want you to understand, as a child or teenager growing up, I never had a pizza. I actually thought I was an abused child. You want to know why I thought I was an abused child? Because we ate out of the garden every day. We ate wildlife. I would complain about dinner where we're having steak, right? Because we had our own food supply. That's just the way it was. Now you have to understand, my father, now 89 years old, is the third youngest of 16. Wow. And so they were Depression era kids. And so literally, I do have the one father that really did walk the snow 5 miles one way in the snow to school, killing rabbits on the way, stick them in the snow, go to school, although they walked barefooted with no shirt, that kind of stuff, come back home, pick up the rabbit, skin it, and they had something for dinner. That's a true phenomenon in my family. They did it. And so it kind of ingrained some interesting stuff with me. And when you have a grandmother that has 16 kids, and later in life, she explained it just got easier. I found out I could get pregnant and I could squat in the field and have them while I was still picking beans. And so I got to see what I thought as a kid I didn't understand, when all these other kids are going to fast food. I never went to a fast food place. I take that back. I did go to a Dairy Queen. We had, tacos with 3 for 99 cents. So that tells you how far back it was in time. But I didn't know what it was until I was never had Chinese food, never had anything like that, just good homegrown stuff. Well, then I become adult and you kind of go nuts. And I've been all around the world having all kinds of great food. But in that time where I went from eating great to being very young, have a skyrocketing career, drinking every night, going to dinner parties and stuff. All of a sudden, man, I blew up and it's like, oh my God, what have I become? So I had to kind of get my life straight with food and my relationship with food right. And where did I end up going? Well, I ended up going and completely turning vegan. When I mean vegan means it wasn't that I prayed to animals or prayed to trees or rocks or anything like that. I gave up everything, meat, cheese, dairy, everything, right? Totally everything. It really resonated well with my body. But then as I went through that for years, I would do meat substitute products. There's the Loma Linda company that does incredible meat substitute products. I wouldn't eat them now, but I did then. I loved them, everything's soybean or whatever this stuff. But as I got older in life, my body just stopped responding right. It started becoming brittle. And it was, again, going back to my diet. And so I can remember the first time I tried to get an egg back in my body. You would have thought I was eating a fresh dog turd from the front lawn. I was choking it down. It was like making me sick trying to eat an egg, right? And that was just the mental stuff that went with it. And so I reverted all the way back to my roots, regained my health, and reconnected with my life where I've always grown food, had food. And that's how the way I raised my son, my youngest, that, we never at any time, the only thing I've never ventured into dairy cattle. Now, I've bought babies off of dairy cattle because it's a cheap way to get a cow to raise for butchering or whatever, right? But I never raised dairy cattle. And the only thing we bought at our home as I was raising my son from the time basically was born till the time he got to like middle school or through middle school is nothing came from the store except cream, right? And Starbucks coffee grounds. Everything else was supplied by the family farm and whatever. And we were running around delivering food to everybody. And so I can see this at all different angles. I understand why people do it. Mm-hmm. And then I started seeing this zombie meat products coming out. So a long time ago in my life, just as a normal ritual in my life, I've always used peppermint soap. I've always used citrus oil as both a household cleaner, as both to something to keep mosquitoes and aphids and everything else away. I already kind of knew about that old hat, but all of a sudden it became the thing to do. But it became the thing to do because it was turned into fear porn and shaming, and you're killing the environment and you're whatever, right? And so this fear industry popped up and now it becomes hip. And we have generations that have now come on the other side and our kids are being told everything's horrible, everything's going to kill you, whatever. Oh, get out of the dirt. You're going to get sick. We got to eat dirt to be okay as kids, right? And we go to this overprotecting, hand sanitizing stuff. It just kind of got crazy. And then I started reading about this zombie meat. And zombie meat is, why would anyone basically say, I'm not going to eat a chicken, it's horrible? Somebody online instantly, I was showing a cowboy rodeo father and son team. The son in Texas got bucked really fast, kind of hit on his head and was kind of stunned and knocked out. And the bull came right back for him. And his dad dived over his body, over the rail, dived over his body. And the bull just horns first, crushes into the dad and goes on. He saved the son and saved the dad. But I posted that and what somebody got about it online, because any idiot can comment online, right? That's just animal brutality, and that's what they deserve. And I just see this stuff going on, but they would have no problem eating zombie meat, where they take stem cells and they grow it in a lab. I have this appalling aversion to Frankenmeat, right? And now we know more about how labs and things created in labs nefariously can destroy our lives. And now we got this culture of soft boys and men with breasts and little girls that are having their menses early and all this chemical attack and stuff and junk and this and whatever. It's all turned into fear porn to push people, I believe, to a nefarious goal of controlling our food supply. And that means meat, and that means plants, and that means farmland. And when they start taking our rights away and we can't go to live events or we can't do this and we got to have masks and we got to have vaccine passports, and now trying to move to a digital currency and now buying up kind of farmland and meat and stuff like this, I see it's pushing to where they control everything and can cut you off. And frankly, it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I agree. And something that really hit me on that podcast episode is this disturbing and crazy celebrity meat growing thing. Tell me more about that, because that just turns my stomach.
Well, that's why I kind of did the little teaser when I said, eat me. And then I did a question after. I said, would you eat me? There is this project that as they were promoting the growth of these synthetic meats, they actually figured out meat is meat is meat is meat, and they just need the stem cell. And so they literally started a campaign to collect cell samples from famous celebrities. So now you could have, your favorite actor or actress, if they had their cells in their inventory, they could make and deliver salami, right? They could make sausage from your favorite celebrity. Well, I don't know about you, but that's pretty far left to think that you would be eating Pelosi sausage and it would actually be from Nancy Pelosi's genes. That's repulsive enough as it is. And it's bad enough they smoke it and dry it. So I guess it's true advertising. It's wrinkled and dried up just like her, but it's still made from their genes. And so they have this hook that you can literally harvest cells from your favorite celebrity and they'll grow the meat and culture it. And there are places really doing this. There are places experimenting with it. Well, in my book, number one, that is very sycophantic celebrity worship. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, okay, right, we can do that as synthetic meat, but you're going to be a cannibal? It's out of control. I don't
even understand how. Who even?
So I thought people would fall out over that. That's why I did that. Who would think about that, right? That's some sick mentality, right?
Yeah.
Next week we have a special on Brad Pitt Franks. It's just like, what? So who knows?
Yeah, I thought the designer baby thing was weird. Right. Where you can, they're trying to make it so you can choose or have celebrity designer babies. And I thought that was crazy, but this is a whole new.
Technically now you could design your baby, save a little bit of the stem cells from the placenta. And then for their baptism, you probably wouldn't do it. But if you did, you can eat your baby all at the same time without hurting your baby. This is some nuts stuff. There is a line to be drawn in Franken meat to begin with. I truly believe it. But there's certainly a line to be drawn ethically and morally with meat made from people's stem cell. But then I think it is so intellectually dishonest to harp about the meat industry, but you'll grow it in lab and you'll still eat it. Now they try to push it with the same fear mongering. It takes 90% less water and it does this and it does this and it does this. That still doesn't justify it. I truly believe everything was made the way God intended it. That is why some of these things taste like horrible cardboard, right? That they try to get to market too fast. It's green. They're going to synthetically ripen it versus walking out in your backyard, your homegrown tomato, and cutting it right there and getting your bread and your mayonnaise, because I love tomato mayonnaise sandwiches. It's one of my favorites. And literally just having it right there. It's the difference between what's grown at home or grown with love or grown with great care and pride versus our factory foodism, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't understand it. And I think there's a big moral and ethical disconnect. But I think the root of it is, and mind you, I'm a tinker. I'm a big heirloom vegetable guys. And I would love to make heirloom vegetable crop growing mainstream again with the health conscious stuff, to have, vegetables that aren't made for the best equipment in the world, but they're really tasty. But I do think it's morally unethical to point fingers, fear porn, shame, blah, blah, this, but you accept it when it's from a lab. I just don't agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. And the meat shaming that's happening, it's everywhere. And it really could be catastrophic for the agriculture industry.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, where do we go from there?
Well, see, the things I'm worried about as far as the synthetic meat market, I am concerned with the bills and legislation that have been passed in the fracking and the oil industry regarding methane production.
Mhm.
Now, anybody who's worth their salt knows your trash can and your poop pile at your farm is going to put off methane. And if you want to bag it, you can, and you can use it for house fuel. But under the guise of methane reduction, which is just another attack on fracking and other stuff, it's a completely safe and natural gas. They're doing this methane reduction emission bills, but they're trying to angle it over here where they've successfully sold hate, and that's drilling and fracking and everything else. But it's really only the stroke of a pen to cross that line and go over into the agriculture industry,
Yeah.
right? And start talking about methane production there, farm animals, cows and stuff. Somebody actually extrapolated the math on it. And if the math applied to cows, they literally could tax you $1,000 to $2,000 a head per cow per year.
Yeah. What does that
I
do?
saw that. I don't put it past them. I do not put it past them. I saw that. And that alarms me because that's one way to shut the family farms down. The laws are already on the books anyway. They have some very nefarious laws that came about during the Obama administration that had to do with family farms. If you work on a family farm, it's just what you do. It's your life, but you can't use your kids. You can't do this. Part of those bills they passed back then under the guise of child labor. Remember, they need the fear porn and they roll it into something else. They've actually already passed environmental laws regarding dust, meaning they actually already on the books have rules and regs that they talk about that if it creates dust, it's bad for the environment and they can fine you. Well, we're all running up and down dirt roads on the farm and we're all plowing the fields, kicking up dust. There's a time if they swoop down on all of these things for very stupid reasons, but with legal teeth because they've done it, they can say you can't run your plow in that field. You can't run your tractor. You can't do that because it kicks up dust. And if you want to do it, you have to pay fines. And that will also tax and or levy family farmers and big operations out of existence. And again, if that happens and all the land's being bought up, like people like Bill Gates buying up all farmland and consolidating it down, that's the factory farm. And that's what we have to worry about. That is the factory farm. And if you just do a short hop across our flyover states, as they say, and we get to New York City, where they're going to regulate, you can't drink a 32-ounce soda because we don't think it's good for you. And so they've got to regulate it and fine you. Then you realize we're on the precipice of out of control lawmakers that do not care about family, do not care about God, do not care about freedom, and do not care about rights or liberty, and think they know how you should be living, and they can force the stuff. And if they get enough land and they get enough laws on the books, God help us, we're Soylent Green in my book.
Yeah, we're at a very interesting intersection right now, I would say. And, over the last few decades, the increasing indoctrination of youth has been unbelievable. Media, educational institutions, they're creating activists. So are you seeing this too?
Well, yeah, we're seeing it. We're seeing classrooms take out kindergartners, giving them Black Lives Matter signs and teaching them how to march through the rooms, down the halls, around the schools, and into the parking lots. They are changing and channeling our children into activists. And it goes to this moral relevance stuff. Talk to a child or a middle school girl or high schooler about abortion. It's my right, my body, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Rescue a dog on the street and that dog be pregnant and you don't want those puppies and you go terminate those 6 or 7 little puppies in it. You're a killer and they want to get after you, but they have no fear about the life stuff. Now, everybody makes their own choices. I only use that as an example where we can easily devalue the life of a human and we can over exaggerate it over here to actually change your entire moral structure. So yes, they are teaching our kids to be activists. They are teaching our kids to protest. They are teaching our children things we do not and never would talk to them about as a child, much less maybe when they get in the age of junior high or high school, you might be discussing things. But I don't think our precious kindergarten kids need to be reading about how to self-pleasure yourself and have visual instruction in it, right? That is nuts. And it all is because they're trying to divide the family unit. Yeah. They're trying to make God and family de minimis, because if they can get God and family out, then everything's allowed. And if they can get it in your face in the schools that your teacher, Miss Roberts, is really Mr. Roberts this day, then if everything can kind of become morally relative instead of absolute, then the reality is there are no rules and nothing's wrong for anybody. And if it feels good to you, do it. To hell with everybody else. That, to me, is Sodom and Gomorrah and the destruction of society.
Yeah, that's it. And I've been reading a lot about the globalist agenda over the last few years. And all of this is really just feeding that agenda, right?
Absolutely, 100%. It's compliance. It's all it's about, right? If you look at any environmental law, although most of them, and many of them are good, right? There's products we've learned over time we shouldn't use. We know that, right? We know that. And we can learn it and we shouldn't do it. There's even products that the government pushed that we should have never done. It happens, but it's a natural evolutionary process to it. But when the government has to mandate it to you, that's wrong. When the government thinks they need to teach it to you when you're a child so they can force you an adult, that's wrong. But we're now moving past that. It's much more nefarious. It's now you either do it or you don't work, you don't travel, you don't eat, you don't exist. That is the slippery slope we're on right now.
Absolutely. And Trudeau is a good example, being that I left Canada. And it's true what, he was able to freeze bank accounts because of a political opinion, right?
That's right. And that's absolutely horrific. And that's what they did when they now want to punish people. That's what Nancy Pelosi and the gang is doing right now with January 6th. They're basically saying that was an insurrection. It wasn't. They're not doing anything about BLM or Antifa. But what they're trying to push now, which I did a program on, they are trying to say the only reason people showed up on January 6th is because all of the donors donated to Trump, and that made those people emboldened and thought they could force people to do things. And therefore, now they're going after all the big Trump supporters. They're trying to shame everybody and everything and cut it off. Yeah. Now, when you sit here, look, I asked my dad, I talked to my dad. I said, Dad, I'm having a problem. I want to ask you a question. I said, I know every generation feels that as they get a little bit older, that their world's going to hell in a handbasket. I think that's just normal for every generation. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, I kind of felt that when I was a kid too. And I said, but now I think it's really true. I mean, we are seeing it. And my father resonated with that. We are seeing it. And this is a typical sign that you can see in any country in the world, any revolution in the world, doesn't matter what it is. Once you have a government inserted and selected that is not elected and is forced upon you, one of the sure signs of corruption is they immediately, as fast as they can, begin changing all the rules and enforcing draconian mandates. That is a telltale sign of a legally elected government. What did we get with this 2020? We got that. But what do you expect? This was the first time in history we all voted by mail or was supposed to, and they just printed them. Remember, it's not a unified system. We have 50 different elections in the United States. It happens to have federal on it, but it's many small elections. And so the states can do it, and they all colluded and did it together. And so what did we get, right? We got a mail order maladministration president. That's what we have. That's what we get for shopping for a president in a catalog. No wonder he didn't go out on the campaign trail. He knew it was in the works, and that's why I had to get involved. And that's why I had to get into the audits and make the audits happen in Arizona and dig for the facts, which is what I spend my time now doing, is because we can't fix America, and we certainly can't fix our elections unless we know how they're broken, how they're crooked, what goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And the report I was just working on with the Arizona Attorney General, remember in Arizona, the election was supposedly won by Biden by, let's just call it 10,500 votes. However, in Maricopa County, we discovered there are 7,825 dead people on the voter rolls that are still active. And so we had a deep dive into that. So there's three types of dead voters. There are people that were born, they registered to do their civic duty, they died, and then somehow they didn't get taken off the books. And that's where the system goes, oh, that was just a mistake. Well, they pay big money to companies to clean these up and take them off and get noticed. Why are they not doing it? Then you have a second crop of voters, and those are people that were born, then they died, and then magically they became registered, and they're on the polls, on the books, and they've been voting in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 elections. Then we discovered a new crop of voters, and these are children that died. They might have died within 2 or 3 months of birth or up to, middle school or teen. They die, and then somehow a few years later, they pop back up as a new registered, of course, of age voter. All of that is intent to defraud. And if you just look at that crop of 7,825 voters, 69.9% of them voted in the 2020 election in Maricopa County, represent over half of the margin of vote. And that's just one category of how these elections are rigged. And we just can't let it stand anymore.
Yeah. And that's just one county.
That's right. That's just one place, one county. I know of one county we're working with right now. It's not a very large county. And remember, Maricopa is the fourth largest county in the United States of America. It is the second largest voting population block in the United States. We found 7,800 there. And one of these other states, just a regular, moderate, Midwestern county, 22,000 dead people on the voter rolls for that one county. That means if you know who these people are, they're not going to come looking for their vote. You can intercept their mail-in ballot, or you can put them there in the machine, and nobody's going to be wiser. That means if you know where those assets are, that's a fungible asset. You know how to spend it. It's a piggy bank for politicians and crooks. If you know it's there, you can keep all the politicians in office. And that's why I feel a lot of these states that we now think are blue, or cities that are blue, number one, never were blue. And the states never are blue. Like, I do not at all believe California or New York is blue. I believe they're red, and they've just been stolen for a long time.
So what do you think? So what's your aim? I know this is your big passion right now is to really get to the bottom of this, but going forward for future elections, what are you trying to make happen?
Well, it's a two-part thing. Everything I've ever learned in doing these elections about how these elections can be compromised. Over 200 ways these elections can be compromised, and you don't even have to screw with the computers. And I'm a computer guy, right? I'll give you an example. You can go yourself to your own county recorder and look up who's registered at your address. Most people will find other people registered there to vote that you have no idea who they are. That's another criminal area. You can also find in these cities when an apartment building is approved to be built, or a skyrise, or whatever the hell it is. Let's say you're going to do an apartment unit with 100 apartments on it. From the day that permit's granted, what starts popping up on the records? Voters. They start inserting voters in those units, even though those apartments haven't even broke ground. That shows collusion at the state level. So there's many, many, many ways to do this. What I'm working to do on one respect, the end result is I want to kick the machines to the curb. They should not be a computing device. They should be dumb devices. They should be able to count the ballots automatically, know if it's counterfeit, know if you're real, know if you're at the right place, and get it done. Because the way they rig these things is they sell a $562 Dell computer to the state for $35,000 a year, which is a lease. So all that has to go away. We got to get control of the ballot paper. We have to make sure we have ballot paper. If we go away from paper, our elections will permanently be stolen. We won't have any receipts. And I want to gut the profitability of the voting industry. It should not be $1 billion plus industry. It should not take a state like Louisiana, $100 million contract to run their voting. It's a scam. It's a racket. It all needs to go away. It needs to be owned by the people. It needs to be dirt cheap. And so I want to gut the profitability. On the other side of it is, even though I'm working with attorney generals and Senate and stuff like that, it's a hell of a process. I would have told you before I got into this that, hey, look at this city over here. They probably have a bad politician here, or this city might have 2 or 3. I'm completely the opposite. I now think when I look at a city, I go, maybe they have 1 good politician there. Maybe this city has 2 good politicians. I'm on the opposite spectrum now. So my job in finally getting to the bottom of all of this election fraud, all of this maladministration, all of these nefarious actions is to make sure the politicians' feet are held to the fire, because when you show them hard proof, they have to act instead of having it hidden. But I do a lot to evangelize it to the people, just like I told you about new buildings. You can find it out. You want to ferret the stuff, you can find it out on your own. So that's why I try to teach the public, because the true weapon is the public. There is nobody on a white horse that is going to come up and save this country. And even if you saw me in a thong bikini on the beach and my bright white thighs from not being in the sun enough, I'm not riding up on the white horse to save you. It's not up to me or something like that. It's up to you. Nobody's going to come save you. No military is going to come crashing in. That's not the way it's going to work. You're it. Tag, you're it. You have to open your eyes. You have to understand what happens, and you have to activate. And if you're just sitting around and you're complaining online, or you're screaming at the television, said, I can't believe this, whatever. I have one question for you. When's the last time you called your state legislator or your lawmakers or your senators or called them out? How many times are you emailing them telling them to fix this? If you haven't done any of that, you got to stop complaining and you've got to activate, or we're going to lose our country.
Yeah. And my listeners are generally from the flyover states and from the country. And yeah, there's stuff everyone can do, right? If everybody does something, I know that's
absolutely. If you just went down to your county recorder and tax office, you're spending time there anyway. Mm-hmm. And you got your fellow church members and everybody, just go check and see who's registered to vote at your address. Mm-hmm. You will be surprised. We find 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes with 65 people registered there to vote. We find empty fields in Arizona, empty fields. Nothing there, not even a mailbox. So how do they get a ballot? But an empty field with 2,200 registered voters in it. Now, the state will say, well, that's for the activists. So that's for the homeless people. Well, there's no mailbox there. But yet, to forward a ballot is completely illegal. But for that field, they'll forward it 6 blocks away to activists and hand deliver them 2,200 ballots. But that's only if everybody gets 1 ballot. We know this last time around, they got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. That's how bad this is. You can do very simple things. Go see who's registered at your home. Go look and see if your deceased parents, relatives, children, or otherwise are still registered to vote. Get them off the list. Go down to your tax office, your recorder office, where they're keeping property records and stuff, especially building records, where there's new developments going in, new buildings going up, or apartments that aren't even built yet, or are still just stick houses that nobody can live in, and start looking if they've started inserting voters there. They have. Get those off and expose it and scream and yell. That's how they're sliding these people under the radar, and that's how they're turning our wonderful red states and counties blue, and that is how they are hijacking us from the inside. And those are all things you can do.
Very good point. And another thing that gets me riled up is climate change. That's a hot topic, goes hand in hand with everything we're talking about. Personally, I believe that there is no one more qualified to be a caretaker of the land than a farmer. And right.
I believe that we all have a responsibility to be good stewards of the land. That's why we were put here by God.
That's right. That's right.
And I also love to see how ag tech is making it possible to grow more food with less resources. But politicians are using this grain of truth in environmentalism to manipulate and serve their own agendas. So can you talk about that as well?
I sure can. Look, we made mistakes with some pesticides and commercial products that we thought certain things happened. That happens in every industry. That's why some of the first planes and automobiles were death traps. We live and learn. Now, there's no reason we should be using chemicals that make us grow 2 heads, 3 ears. If it gets really bad, it might make our kids think they're a boy one day and a girl the next. But anyway, I digress. So we have to be aware of those things, and there's alternates to do it. Now, I know there's always business, right? There's always business saying, well, we synthetically do it because we want to control it. And that kind of goes with it. But it doesn't mean you have to be egregious to it. Secondly, I am not a climate denier, and I am not a climate thumper either. I'm only a client science fact. And the fact is, if you go to our various polar ice caps and you drill down into the ice and they're pulling up samples from several hundred feet down, they're finding out that there was more toxins in our air back during the industrial age than there is now with all the automobiles and people. We go through cyclical trends as a planet. They've even found there was horrible toxins and carbons in the environment, but it goes back to the time of Mount Vesuvius or the explosion of Thera in the Mediterranean. That's what our planet does. And so the same people that are basically going to tell you, well, you can be a boy or a girl, and saying, but you got to trust the science, aren't trusting the science, aren't looking at it. And we even know our own planet tilted on its axis at different times, which changes climate. This is what happens. It's just the way it is. It's the way God made it. It's the way it's supposed to happen. And it's our job to adapt. Adaptation is basically something that we accept, we do, we learn. It should not be by force mandate. Now, I know farmers are highly technical, highly skilled, and cared. They adapt every day. If you've ever taken a barbed wire fence that was busted and you found a piece of wire in the field and you patched that fence, what did you do? You adapted to that moment in time and you made it work. And so to think that people are crazy and can't get it and can't do it, and lawmakers need to tell us to do it, is just nuts. Because one of the most adaptational crowds is the people that grow food, grow animals, because you are learning every day. You're learning from your mistakes. You are modifying, and it's all about production and doing better. You do it naturally. It does not need to be forced. But I'm telling you, I am not one of these. You can't put me in a category of a climate change denier. I'm not denying it. I'm saying climate changes. I'm just saying it's natural and it's cyclical trends. I don't think it's because we're breathing air. I also don't buy the carbon footprint crap. What are you going to do? Outlaw all trees? You're going to outlaw breathing, right? We respirate carbon. Are we now going to be outlawed? Now, I know a lot of you think they're trying to kill us with some of these shots, and it may be true, planet depopulation. But again, we just need to write a simple rule that if you're going to be a politician or a lawmaker, you have to pass a reasonable intelligence test with a reasonable logic test. And then we can fix a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And we've touched on this a little bit earlier, but I've felt for a long time that we're being pushed toward more and more dependence on government and supply chains. And now we can clearly see just how fragile that is. And it concerns me that the majority of people cannot feed themselves anymore. We're a generation and a half probably now away from being self-sufficient. And like I've heard, New York City has only enough food for like 4 days at any given time. So how did we get here? And was this on purpose?
I think it was on purpose. You might have a thing there. Maybe that's why they're cloning celebrity meat, because if they can get you the taste for human food, hey, then they can depopulate just by you eating your neighbor. There you go. That's the.
I'll feed New York City for a few more days.
I do. Yes, I do believe that this is all a grand plan, and it's a grand plan to control. It's a grand plan. If you've ever watched the movie Matrix, some people have, some people haven't. But if you go back and watch it now, it makes a lot of sense. I do believe, I never believed this before, but I do believe now that I've really gotten into this politics stuff and have to deal with the nastiest business in the world. And I'm telling you, if you were in a dairy farm and you were scooping all the poop from the cows into the center of the room, like you wash it out, and you literally let it collect about 10 feet deep, and you got to get to the other door, which means you have to hold your breath and swim through the poop to get to the other door to unlock it. That's a far cleaner job than dealing with these politicians to get this stuff. I would take that any day over dealing with these politicians stuff. And it is all because we are living, breathing battery units. We are nothing but earning units. And they basically rape the system, rape our resources. We're the resources. They scream about mining so they can push stuff to other countries to make us literally controlled by other people because they want to turn us into battery units. And I'm telling you, we have to take that government and its damn one-way umbilical cord that sucks from us, and we have to literally tell them to cut the crap and knock it off, which means we have to be educated and understand how it works. But yes, it is all a grand plan to control.
Yeah. And you mentioned Bill Gates earlier, and he's now number one farmland owner in America. So what's going on with that? What do you think?
Well, people have inside information, and literally, why in Arizona, when the full mandates in the United States of America came down, where everything was, you can't move, you can't breathe, don't go outside, July and August, right? Why was the largest ballot printer in the United States at the beginning of March ordering the single largest order of ballot stuffing machines ever in history? What did they know in March that we didn't know? Bill Gates is in the same category. They know it's a plan. They're buying it up. They're looking to control it and do it because they think they can do it better. They think they're smarter. They want to make us all just consuming control units. And so, yes, buying up that land, I think, is nefarious. Now, granted, in an unsecure society that's unstable, land is a great investment and people should have land. So on one hand, it might be a reasonable diversity of investment, but I don't believe it. And I don't believe it when you now see Bill Gates pushing vaccines, saying there's going to be more pandemics, his wife leaving him, literally divorcing him simply because of his time with Jeffrey Epstein, and saying I couldn't agree with that guy. Something's wrong. And so when I put all of those things together, somebody who I actually thought was a smart guy, I think something's wrong, and he's kind of gone off the deep end, and it worries me. But you know what it does? It literally takes those group of those individuals with the ability to finance anything to push us all out. And I think there's a concerted effort to do it.
Yeah. So one more question for you. What are you most passionate about? What did God put you on this earth to accomplish?
Open eyes. If you look at my technology career, I have a recurring nightmare regarding my technology. See, I'm one of these guys that helped get mobile phones to explode and to get you to use it. I'm the guy that way back when we used to carry around brick phones and we used to have $2,000 a month or more phone bills, which is incomprehensible, was the one that converted it where it should just be a flat plan, all you can eat, and the phone comes free. I did that years and years ago. It's now the way it's done. So I have this weird dream in my head that in the future, our precious children, they're kind of gray in their skin color and their heads are kind of elongated and they can only kind of look left and look right. Their heads kind of always tilted down, looking left, looking right, can't move very much or exceptionally slow, kind of dumb, saliva drooling mouse. And one hand is really just a flat hand that's webbed so they can hold their phone. And their other hand is morphed into a stylus so they can do their phone. And I have this vision in my head of the nightmare I contributed to. And so the way I look at it is very simple. Yeah, I can innovate and create revolutionary things. But I think what I'm really here to do is to help people relate and understand and be able to see it. And it's why I can explain technology things in a very simple, easy way, anchored with visuals. I tend to use humor. I'm going to come at you and shock you real quick. Sometimes I say it's only to lock it in your head, but I think my job is to communicate and open eyes, is to wake the sleeping. Because all of this, we would not have the disaster that we had in the 2020 election if it wasn't for every one of us listening right now. Don't get offended. Let me explain. If you are a conservative, you don't go throwing Molotov cocktails. You don't go picketing. You don't go do hate signs. You don't go to a store, break into windows and say, these folks owe me, so I'm going to take it. That's not how we're wired. What we do is we believe that people should be people like us. So we trust and we expect the best. Well, the reality is, if you're on the left and you hate America, you're going to change it no matter what. You're going to do it nefariously. So the problem with this was our own apathy. We did this. I admit it. I never voted for a mayor or a city council or any of that in my life. I treated election like lottery tickets. I'll play when it's $1 billion, not below. We can't do that anymore. We can't say they're going to steal our vote anyway. So screw it. We can't do that either. We must vote now more. We must be active. We must be engaged, because every bit of this happened on our watch and under our noses. We let it happen. We got buffaloed. We believed the crap. We believed media was honest and politicians was honest. And I'm telling you, they're all a bunch of damn liars. Wake up, open your eyes. And I'm one of these people helping you cut those crusties off your eyelids and see it for what it really is.
Great points. That's awesome. And
Thank
if
you.
people don't already listen to you, where can they find you?
You can find me really easy on all social media. Just, that little thing that looks like a number sign, that's called a hashtag. And so if you're sitting at your computer or phone, just open however you search the net and search anything and put that hashtag, that little pound sign, that's called a hashtag, pound sign, and then spell my name out, Jovan, Jovan, just like the colognes in the 70s. No, I do not smell like that when I sweat. And let me tell you, don't name your kid a family name like Jovan in Texas. I'm telling you. And then my middle name, Hutton, Hutton, which is like E.F. Hutton. You should listen to me. Last name, Pulitzer, Pulitzer. Well, like the prize, but not the prize. I'm like the free parting gift if you hurry up and order now. So pound sign, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. If you'll put that in with that hashtag, no spaces, no capitals, pound sign, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, run it all together and hit it. You will find everything about me and where I am. You can find me on all social media. You can find me on all platforms and podcasts. The left vilifies me and hates me, so they're going to try to convince you I'm Satan incarnate. It's the way it goes. But you'll find me. So Twitter, Telegram, MeWe, Gab, Parler, Facebook, Clout Hub, you just name it, I'm there.
Awesome. That sounds pretty easy.
It is. Just remember my wacky name, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
All right. And then thank you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
There
you.
is a lot to digest from today's conversation for sure.
There is. I really appreciate you thinking about it. I was actually excited. Wow, to talk about something really passionate and do it. And I appreciate for what you do. And I believe in what you do. The fact that you're there to help people in the agriculture market, which sometimes we're told that's used cars salesmanship and whatever. Yeah. It's a fact of life. It's a fact of life. You have to market. You have to market hard. Now more than ever, you have to market aggressively. But the key is to have people market for you that are smarter, better, and can do it more economical than the system. And that's why I appreciate what you do, because you're not a system person. You're a person just making it happen for people. And I admire that.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who's watching or listening. If you want to learn more, all the links are provided in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe to North American Egg Spotlight on YouTube, Rumble, or Egg Fuse channels. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day. Thanks so much for listening to today's Egg Spotlight episode, where we put the spotlight on people and companies doing great things for the agricultural industry. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or on your favorite podcasting platform, and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on YouTube and Rumble to see the video version of Ag Spotlight.
Also, head on over to NorthAmericanAg.com to subscribe to our Industry Connect update newsletter. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, email us at connect@NorthAmericanAg.com. Thanks for listening. Our newest podcast by North American Ag is called What Color is Your Tractor? The stories behind the ag brands you love and the ag brands you love to hate. Hosted by me, Chrissy Wozniak. We take a deep dive into the companies that have built modern agriculture. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Go to whatcolorisyourtractor.com. Available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.